In the town of Umunzi, Ada's hair store was the go-to destination for luxury human hair. Ladies from all over the town flocked to her store, willing to pay exorbitant prices for the beautiful, high-quality hair that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. The store itself was a marvel, with walls lined with shelves upon shelves of hair in every color, texture, and style. The atmosphere was always electric, with the sound of chatter and laughter filling the air, and the scent of hair products wafting through the streets. But what these ladies did not know was that Ada's hair came with a sinister price, a hidden cost that only revealed itself after the hair had been worn. As soon as they put the hair on their head, they would start to lose their facial beauty, as if the hair was a parasite feeding on their very essence. Their skin would become dull and lackluster, losing its natural glow and radiance. It was as if the hair was sucking the beauty right out of them, leaving them a hollow shell of their former selves. The transformation was subtle at first, but it would progress with each passing day until the ladies were almost unrecognizable. They would look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back at them, a stranger with dull skin, lifeless eyes, and a misshapen face, and yet, despite the horrifying transformation, they would still be drawn to the hair, as if it had some sort of malign power over them. As the weeks turned into months, the ladies would become increasingly withdrawn and isolated, ashamed to show their faces in public. They would lock themselves away, hiding from the world as they struggled to come to terms with what was happening to them. And through it all, Ada would be watching, her eyes gleaming with a malevolent light as she reveled in the destruction she had wrought. For Ada knew the dark secret of her hair, and she was determined to keep it hidden, no matter the cost. Ebube, who sold shoes opposite Ada's store, was the first to notice that something was amiss. She would see the ladies leave Ada's store looking stunning, their new hair bouncing with every step, and their confidence soaring. But by the end of the week, they would look like completely different people, their faces transformed in ways that were both subtle and shocking. Ebube would catch glimpses of them as they walked down the streets, their eyes dull and lifeless, their skin sallow and dry. She would see the way their features seemed to sag and droop, as if they were being pulled down by some invisible force. At first, Ebube thought it was just her imagination playing tricks on her, but as the days went by, she noticed the same transformation happening to lady after lady. She would see them leave Ada's store looking like supermodels, only to return weeks after looking like shadows of their former selves. Ebube's curiosity got the better of her. She started to investigate, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. She began by asking discreet questions, trying not to arouse Ada's suspicion. She would chat with the ladies as they browsed her shoe collection, asking them about their hair and where they had gotten it from. But whenever she mentioned Ada's store, they would quickly change the subject, their eyes darting nervously around the streets. It was as if they were afraid of being overheard, afraid of revealing some dark secrets that they had sworn to keep. Ebube's curiosity was now in overdrive. She was determined to uncover the truth behind Ada's store, no matter what it took. She started to sneak glances through the window, watching as Ada worked a magic on the lady's hair. She would see the way Ada's hands seemed to weave a spell around the hair, the way her eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light, and she would wonder, what was Ada's secret? What was she doing to these ladies, and why were they afraid to talk about it? One night, under the light of a full moon, Ebube snuck out of her store and peeked through the window of Ada's store. The streets were deserted, and the only sound was the distant hooting of hoes. Ebube's heart was racing as she approached the window, her senses on high alert. She carefully lifted the latch and peeked inside, her eyes scanning the dimly lit interior. What she saw sent chills down her spine. Ada was standing in the center of the store, her eyes closed and her hands raised to the ceiling. She was chanting in a low, hypnotic voice. As Ebube watched, Ada began to mention the names of the people she had sold hair to that morning. Ebube recognized some of the names, and her heart sank as she realized the true extent of Ada's evil. Ebube realized that Ada was using some sort of dark magic to drain the beauty from her customers. The hair was not just a simple product, but a tool of dark sorcery, designed to steal the very essence of those who wore it. Ebube felt a wave of horror as she comprehended the true nature of Ada's business. As Ebube watched, Ada's chanting grew louder and more intense. The air in the store seemed to vibrate with dark energy. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the store into darkness. Ebube froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she had to get out of there fast before Ada discovered her. She carefully retreated from the window, her senses on high alert, and made her way back to her store, her mind racing with thoughts of what she had just witnessed. Ebube was determined to put an end to Ada's sinister scheme, and she knew that she had to be careful. She started to draw close to Ada, gaining her confidence by pretending to be a loyal customer. She would visit Ada's store regularly, complimenting her on her beautiful hair and asking for her advice on how to style her own. Ada, flattered by Ebube's attention, began to let her guard down, sharing secrets and stories with her newfound friend. But Ebube knew her intentions. She was waiting for the perfect moment to strike, to gather enough evidence to expose Ada's sinister scheme. And that moment came when she noticed that Ada never wore any of her own hair. Instead, she would weave her own hair, which seemed to be immune to the dark magic. Ebube realized that Ada must be using some sort of protection spell to shield herself from her hair's dark effects. After some days, Ebube hatched a plan, one that would require precision and stealth. One day, while Ada was busy with a customer, Ebube snuck into the store, her heart racing. She quickly scanned the shelves, her eyes locking onto one of the human hair pieces. It was a beautiful luscious mane, one that seemed to shimmer. Ebube grabbed the hairpiece, her hands trembling slightly as she concealed it beneath her cloak. She waited until Ada was alone, the customer having left the store. Then, with a deep breath, Ebube crept up behind Ada and quickly put the hair on her head. The effect was instantaneous. At that instant, Ada's beauty began to fade, like a flower wilting in the sun. Her skin turned dull, losing its radiant glow. Her eyes, once bright and sparkling, lost their luster, becoming dull and lifeless. And her features, once finely chiseled and defined, became misshapen, as if the hair was wiping and twisting her very face. Ada let out a blood-curdling scream as she realized what was happening. She stumbled backwards, her hand clutching at the hair as if she could rip it up from her head. But it was too late. The damage was done. The hair began to drain her beauty, leaving her a hollow shell of her former self. Ebube watched, a mixture of horror and satisfaction on her face. She had finally exposed Ada's sinister scheme, and now the witch was getting a taste of her own medicine. As her features continued to change, Ada confessed her atrocities. Her voice was shaking with fear and remorse. She had been using dark magic to drain the beauty from her customers, and she had been getting away with it for months, preying on the vanity and insecurity of the women who came to her store. I was desperate, Ada sobbed, her eyes streaming with tears. I was ugly and unwanted, and I wanted to be beautiful, to be loved. So I made a pact with a dark force, trading my soul for the power to drain the beauty from others. She looked up at Ebube, her eyes filled with a mixture of shame and defiance. I didn't care who I hurt, as long as I got what I wanted. But now I see the error of my ways. I see that beauty is not just physical, but also spiritual, and I have lost both. As she continued to confess, more people had gathered in her store. The news spread like wildfire, sweeping through the town of Umunzi like a cleansing storm. Women who had once been proud owners of Ada's luxurious hairpieces scrambled to rid themselves of the cursed objects. They gathered in the town square, their faces filled with a mix of shame, anger and relief. With torches and flames, they burned their wigs, watching as the dark magic that had consumed them was purged in the fire. As the wigs burned, the women felt their beauty and vitality returning. Their skin regained its radiance, their eyes sparkled once more, and their features became finely chiseled and defined. They smiled at one another, tears of joy streaming down their faces. They were finally free from Ada's grasp, free to live their life without the weight of her dark magic. Ada's store, once the hub of a sinister operation, was burnt down, reduced to ashes and rubble. The townspeople, once deceived by her charms, now shunned her. As for Ebube, she was hailed as a hero. Her bravery is celebrated by all. She had saved the town of Umunze from the clutches of evil, and she had restored the beauty and dignity of its women. Ada was left to live a miserable and isolated life, a shadow of her former self. She wandered the streets, a lonely and forsaken figure, her beauty lost forever.